Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. Today I'll show you how I made this really pretty alcohol inked piece of jewelry. Hello and welcome. So glad you are here. Yeah. Just cleaning off my work surface, getting everything ready here. I have rolled out a piece of pearl clay. And I'll just show you the packaging so you can see what I used. You are free to use whatever clay you want to use. This is just what I'm using. Turns out pretty cool in the end. I do recommend a pearl color or a white color of clay. And you do want to make it kind of on the thicker side. I'm going to be using a stencil. You can use any stencil you have. Or if you are in need of stencils, I will leave links below for the stencil that I'm using in this project. If you are interested, I did buy it on Amazon. But I did go stencil crazy and bought a whole bunch, so I had to take a few minutes to decide which stencil I wanted to use. Kind of visually plan it out in my mind to see how I kind of wanted everything to look. And I just decided on a really simple heart pattern. Thought it would kind of go good with my oceany kind of a theme. And I am a really messy person and kind of clumsy, so I'm putting on gloves. I recommend it if you don't want to get ink on your hands. That stuff splashes everywhere. You just never know where it's going to get. So just to kind of prep and prepare. You can also use a really small paintbrush if you would like to kind of smear around your paint colors. I'm only going to use it a little bit, so it's not absolutely necessary. And these are the alcohol inks that I'm using. You can use whatever you want. I've seen a lot of other YouTubers use a whole bunch of other different brands. I just randomly picked this one, and it worked out in my favor because I really don't have any complaints about these. So I do have a lot of alcohol inks. It always inspires me and makes me want to do more ink projects and come up with really cool ideas. But just dreaming of what I could make. You'll want to pick out a couple of colors that you think look good together, or maybe just some colors that just sing to your heart. I just picked out a couple. Just make sure you shake them up pretty good. Get all those wonderful little particles inside mixed up. Yeah, mixed is a word, okay? Anyway. And then you'll just want to go ahead and take and drop that directly onto your clay. You know what? You just drop on your clay as much as you want, as little as you want. You just kind of do what your heart desires at this point. You make this project your own, just kind of generating some ideas for all my wonderful clay family members out there. Just trying to have some fun here. Just drop, drippity drip, drip, drop. And of course, there's always a lot of excess there. So just going to use a folded up little piece of tissue, napkin, whatever you have. Just gently pat that. Get rid of some of that excess ink on the top. You could always wait for it to dry too if you want. But there's a lot on there and I'm impatient and I want to keep going. I do have a couple of white spots on there. Just going to use some of my colors that I want to try to fill in those areas. And then I'm going to place on my stencil. And because the alcohol inks kind of mess with the top layer of the clay, it tends to not want to stick onto your clay surface as much. So you kind of have to roll gently and push with a little bit of force. That's why you kind of want to make your clay a little bit thicker in the beginning. That way you can roll it out and it can become kind of thinner. And all the spots that are poking up, I want to make them more of a solid color. So I just chose one of the colors. And since the ocean is blue, and that's kind of what I'm going for here, the vibe of the ocean. I'm just going to put a bunch of blue on the top there. Mix it around. Dye all those hearts that are popping through some pretty blue color. And I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol, kind of dab it on there, kind of mix it all around there. That way it'll help get that to stick down to the clay and change the color of it a little bit. And also kind of give it like a little wibbly kind of a look. Just remove your stencil and be sure to clean that. I just do it with a little rubbing alcohol. I've flipped over my clay and I'm going to just dye it one solid color. If you want to make it pretty and do whatever you want to the back, you can. Totally your deal. You do what you want to do. I kind of like dropping the drips on there too, because once you smear it around a little bit, you'll see kind of that the blue dots still kind of show through in the background, which kind of reminded me of like little water droplets. I don't know, kind of came out cool. Just gonna stretch it all out a little bit, and it pulls some of that white clay and kind of gives your hearts a little bit of a 3D kind of a look there. And I'm going to use this cap that came off of a spice bottle just to cut out a nice round, rather large kind of a round shape. Peel away all that extra, be sure to keep it because we will be making some beads from that. You can shave away any of the pieces that might be stuck around the outside, just so you have a nice rounded shape. And I'm going to cut it down into what I call a snow cone shape. So I'm going to slice off the sides and leave the top. Slice off as much or as little as you want. Just remember that you can always take off more, but you can't put the clay back on. So make your cuts not as damaging to the clay. You'll see there, if you peel away all that excess clay, it kind of leaves you with like a snow cone kind of a shape. Using the tip of my finger to press down on just the large side of the clay and directly across from that. And now the fun part, just kind of fold it up into a fan shape. I am using a wooden dowel and some toothpicks to kind of manipulate the clay into a fan shape. If you have an easier way to do this, totally awesome. You should totally do that. But this is just kind of how my brain works, and this is what I came up with, so I just kind of went with it. And I did work on the top part first, and then I went down and started working on the bottom once I had the top kind of into the fan shape that I wanted. Kind of looks like a shell also, which is kind of, you know, like a seashell. Kind of making it oceany vibe. And I did wear this necklace to work the other day, and I just loved it. I felt so pretty all day. And now I'm just going to start working on the bottom part. You can use like a thin toothpick to kind of work in those grooves by making just like a sawing motion into it. And I know this probably kind of manipulates all of the clay, and you know, you're using your fingers and pressing it all in there, but I kind of like the warped kind of, you know, distorted look. Kind of reminds me of, you know, maybe a shell that's been tossed about at the sea and given it all its character and its flaws. I kind of like that look, so that's kind of why I do some of the things I do. It's not a perfectionist kind of a way of doing these things, so that might bother some people, but this works for me. Just finish making your bottom come to kind of a point. Just finish out all your little fan layers. And then twist it and manipulate it into whatever you feel is the most pleasing, aesthetically looking shape. I'm kind of twisting the very tops there a little bit, and then the bottom also, kind of making it kind of curve and come up a little bit. And I put 3 little stick pins on one side, and I'm going to do the same across from that. And this will be for hanging the necklace once it's done. So just be sure to go all the way through to the back of the clay. You can also do this after baking if you have a drill tool. I know not everybody has that, so I try to keep that in mind sometimes when I'm doing my projects. I'm going to remove mine before baking. You can leave yours in if you feel more comfortable while baking. Mine did turn out fine. The holes were fine. With that excess clay, I'm going to just kind of peel it all apart to make sure I have enough to make as many beads as I need for my piece. And also I'm going to make 2 flat discs. So just kind of rolling it into a ball. And these actually turned out super beautiful. I kind of want to just make like a bead necklace out of these. But I might do that too. Just kind of flatten it a little bit with your finger. You can use a roller too if you would like. Look at that. I just think it looks totally pretty. And then use a small circle cutter to cut out the center. This is just a eyebrow makeup pencil cap that I'm using. And you can put that with your scraps. And this is kind of how my necklace is going to lay out. I'm going to need to make 3 holes on one side of each of my beads, directly across from where they are on the large shell piece in the middle. This is so that it's going to hang properly once you wear it. Just be sure to poke the hole all the way through so you have a nice, good hole. And then with those extras, I'm going to go ahead and make my beads. And then I'm going to skewer those before I bake them. Also, I'm making more of a flattened bead instead of a rounded bead. Kind of like the little flat pieces I made just a second ago. Put all those on a piece of paper and pop that into the oven and bake it. I have my necklace laid out basically how it's going to be once I am wearing it. This helps me visually see how big everything is, how far everything sets apart, so that I can cut everything to size, the wire for my necklace, make sure I have enough jump rings, and all of that jazz. On one end I did put the bead cap cover, and then I put on my bead cap, and then crimped that, and closed it up. And then everything's going to be strung through the other side. You just need to make sure your necklace is the right length at this point. Make sure it sets however you want it to set around your neck. I'm going to start with putting on the larger bead. I'm going to go large to small bead. You can do small to large, whatever you want to do. And then I'll go all the way around to the other side. And then this one will be backwards, so I'm going to put the small bead on first and then the large bead so that it sets large, small when it goes on. And again, I'm going to do the same thing to this side that I did to that side. putting on some jump rings. And then I'm going to use a larger jump ring. And you kind of see here, this is a really pretty jump ring. I don't even remember where I got this. Maybe Michael's? But it's kind of like, got a cool little groovy pattern all in it. I don't know, it's kind of pretty, kind of different. Almost textured. And then you'll just put on your little toggle piece, and that will actually go through one of your little rings here in a minute when you get putting things together. I need to drill a hole because I forgot to do that before I baked. So I'll just go ahead and drill a hole in there. Just want to make sure that you use a large enough drill piece, the same or larger than your jump ring itself that's going to go through the hole. All right, I have that put together. And then this other side, it's going to go right through there, and that'll be the clasp of how you get your necklace on and off. So everything is done except for stringing and putting on your beads. These are some beads that I bought a long time ago for not even polymer clay stuff. Had them forever. I really need to use them. And they kind of go with my theme, so I like it. You'll want to string some black thread onto a needle, or you can use any other color, whatever color you got, as long as it hides it or doesn't show through your beads. And you'll want to make sure that your string is long enough. Make it plenty long enough. You're going to put it up through the back of your little cutout piece, the little flat disc with the hole in the middle, and then start stringing on your beads. And then you'll come down through the front of the clay into the back of the clay on the little fan or shell piece. Be sure you leave a piece of the tail on the end, as you'll see here. They went up through the back, down through the front, and then now you're going to put on your second little layer of beads. And then once you have enough beads on there, so that the front and back match in the amount of beads you have, you'll just want to tie some knots in there to get everything tightly stuck together. Just put as many knots as you want in there. I think I put like 5 or 6 just to make sure that nothing came apart. And then cut away excess, and I did leave an itty bitty little piece on the end there, you'll see. I did that with all of them. That's just so that the knot doesn't come loose, as you'll see there. And that is it, guys. I have made my little seashell-ish kind of ocean-themed necklace. I really, really like the way this came out. And like I said, I did wear this to work this week, and I really, really liked it. I looked so pretty. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you are able to use some of your own alcohol inks if you have them. It's a nice little fun, nifty little project. Maybe you could just use this to generate some ideas, come up with something even cooler than I made. I really do appreciate y'all watching, and I hope to see you next Tuesday and every Tuesday thereafter. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!